Welcome to Boomer Being, a show all about the baby boomer generation. There's been many scholarly articles written about acupuncture and the healthful benefits of acupuncture. We're very fortunate today to have with us Paul Madden, a licensed acupuncturist and RN. Paul has been practicing in Andover since 1996, and prior to that he worked as an RN for 20 years. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Leslie, and I wanted to thank you for providing an opportunity to speak to the boomer generation, although acupuncture is not restricted to boomers, but in particular, to perhaps dispel some of the fears that people have about acupuncture and shore up some of the facts about acupuncture. I read recently in an article in an acupuncture journal, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 million people in the United States suffer from chronic pain. And people's greatest resistance to acupuncture is the fear of pain. So I want to dispel that fear today if we possibly can.
Excellent.
So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Wonderful. And I've heard that acupuncture is thousands of years old, so I really wanted to ask you, do we know how old acupuncture is?
Not really. We know we can pick up almost any text and it's going to tell you it's 3,000 years old. And talk to different researchers and they'll go to 5,000 years. So let's go with the 3,000-year-old thing. We have hard documentation for 3,000 years. We have scrolls and written records that are 3,000 years old. The needles were not always as refined and polished and sterile as they are now. It started with, there are relics that they found in tombs and things that they know were part of the medical practice. So there were tools for scraping, for tapping, for puncturing, for bloodletting, and these are well known. So this practice of energetic medicine as opposed to taking a pill, which is relatively new, has been around for a long, long time. Healing by touch and understanding how the energy of the body works, which we call qi. We'll get into that a little bit more later on.
Is it possible, without an actual demonstration, is it possible to describe the mechanics of acupuncture to our audience?
Surely. Once a patient is on the table, we take an acupuncture needle, or several usually. All is sterile. This is an acupuncture needle in a tube. I know it's not very visible, but it's sealed in a tube, and we break the seal, and here is our victim or patient. The tube, without the needle exposed, is placed gently on the skin and gently tapped into the skin.
Wow.
And there is an acupuncture treatment, and I'm going to eat it in about an hour without the needle.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. And depending on what's going on with an individual, what the malady is, one to several needles are placed in selected spots. There are well over 360 meridian-related points on the human body, and there are dozens of extra points on the human body. So that's what studying it is all about, is learning where those points are and what they do and how to combine them. And when that's done, people get better without side effects.
Incredible. So your patients get well and they leave, they're healed.
Usually. That's what we're looking for.
That's
what we're looking for. Every day I'm amazed. I say, wow, that really worked well, and it does. They get well. A typical treatment lasts about an hour. Mm-hmm. 20 to 40 minutes of that time, 20 to 50 minutes of that time, a person will have needles in them. Sometimes we do needles on the front part of the body, sometimes on the front and back, sometimes just on the back, depending on what we're treating. And in that time, the needles would be inserted, the lights will be dimmed, there'll be some soft music, I get out of the room, and just let the needles work, and let people take some deep breaths. Pain goes away. Body, the qi of the body, what we're always seeking to do is regulate the qi, which is this vital energy, this life force that goes through all of us. This is the energy that makes our eyes blink, and it makes our irises open and close. It makes our lungs expand and contract. It's what makes our heart beat. It's what makes this earth spin. So it's this universal energy. We all have it. And there are two kinds of qi. There's what's called ancestral chi, which is what we get from our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents, etc. So this is what we're born with. And after that, we've got to eat it. So we get our chi from food. And this is called gu chi, gu chi. This is why diet is so important, and this is why diet should be our primary medicine. This is how we will heal our body. If we're not eating properly, our body's going to go out of balance. If it goes out of balance, you come to an acupuncturist, we help you get it back in balance, and let's talk about what you're eating, by the way, because you might need to do some adjusting on that.
So,
yes, ma'am.
So chi is nothing you can touch, it's nothing you can quantify, it's this life force that's flowing through our body.
That's what it is. And it's one of those things that's very difficult to understand what it is. It's kind of like a cell phone. How does it work? I can't see any wires, I can't see anything. The chi is there. This is what we've known for 3,000 years. It's been mapped for 3,000 years. There are the channels in the body through which the chi flows. And the channels they work in yin-yang pairs. So this is the yin-yang. You've probably seen the symbol. You know, a little round symbol is half black, half white.
Right.
It looks like a big comma in each way. And in the white, there's a dot of black, and in the black, there's a dot of white. So that's yin and yang. Yin is the dark, and yang is the bright. But inside the dark and inside the bright is the opposite. So they're always seeking to overcome each other, and yet they're always seeking to be in balance. And this is what our body wants to do, is be balanced. I try to explain this without getting terribly esoteric and boring. It's kind of fun stuff. When you start to look at it, the chi emerges from our body, and I think we have a chart that shows that. The chi emerges from our body through the lung meridian, which is a yin meridian. And it's related, that channel is related to our lungs, and it transforms at the end of its journey to the large intestine meridian, which is yang. So we have yin and yang pairs of organs and the related energy. Depending on what's going on with a person, we know there are certain points on each meridian. Some will cool, some will warm, some will strengthen, some will weaken. So we want to apply the needles accordingly. Do they hurt? That's the big question. Does it hurt? Does it hurt? No, it doesn't hurt. And I'll tell you the truth, I've had needles put in me, and sometimes there's a little owie to it, but it's about like a mosquito bite. Most of them, the comment is it in yet? And now, I'm on the third one.
Have you ever had a patient come to you that's needlephobic?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you asked that.
What do you do?
I've got 3 of them in being treated right now. There are lots of different things we can do. Acupuncture involves not only the insertion of needles, but there are other techniques. I use magnets a lot. There is electroacupuncture where I can use an electrode instead of a needle. Gua sha is a massage technique. Cupping is another technique that's frequently used, but I'm going to try to stick to needles today. But so there's gua sha. Tuina is another massage kind of technique. And we use all of these things. And I have people who've come and said, no, put the needle in anyway. So I just spend some time getting them to relax. Because if you're all tight like this, and somebody puts a needle in, it hurts. But if we can get relaxation, and get the muscles to relax, and get some good deep breathing going on, and understand that I'm here to help, I'm not here to hurt. You're here because you hurt.
Right.
And that's what I want to help you get over.
So you've been doing this a very long time.
Don't say it like that.
Well, we can benefit from your experience. What are some of the common maladies, or most common maladies, when somebody calls you up and says, I need to come in? What do you look at?
Boy, if you go from head to toe, common is low back pain. Almost, the numbers on low back pain are huge, the statistics on it. It goes from head to toe. I've treated a lot of people with migraine headaches with great success. Sinus infections, seasonal allergies. Right now the phone's ringing with seasonal allergy problems. Respiratory problems. Asthma is a biggie. It does a great job with asthma. Anything digestive, from hiatal hernias to people with a lot of gas who belch a lot. Diarrhea problems, constipation problems, bladder problems, joint problems are another biggie. People hurt their knees a lot, their hips a lot, elbows get tired and sore. So all of these things play into it. Emotionally, stress is a big factor for all
Sure.
kinds of disease. And that we're finally recognizing in the great wide world of medicine that stress will make any disease worse. And any of us that has a weak spot in our body, and we all have, the stress will go to that weak spot oftentimes and kind of accentuate it at the
Right.
moment. So people with low back pain, a lot of times when they get under stress, the back just really starts to kill, and they need to get some help.
So you mentioned like migraine headaches and lungs, and this is what I'm trying to, picture, and I think you alluded to it with the chi. So somebody, if they have, a lung issue, well, the needles aren't going into the lungs.
No.
They're put at various points on the body. So there's this like mystical quality about acupuncture where the needles aren't really put in the point of injury.
Right.
Always. They may just be somewhere completely differently.
Completely different, yes. I'm
And-
glad you brought that up. No, 'cause if you go into the lung, you could create a pretty nasty problem. I treated someone came in today with a chronic issue, but was under attack with asthma. She was having a problem with asthma. Well, the chronic problem is going to have to take a back seat to the asthma and the respiratory issue. And she was just really almost in a state of panic. She was just very upset that she was having, she couldn't breathe well, and she was running out of her inhaler. And I said, okay, lie down. And at this point, I put in 4 needles. I said, take a deep breath for me, please. And she took a deep breath and just said, how did you do that? And she could breathe again.
Instantly?
And it was less than 3 minutes. And I just love that. So it cuts back on the side effects of the heavy-duty medication, which we all, we need that sometimes. But when the needles I put in, by the way, were in her wrists and ankles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, far away from the lungs. So this is the meridians that are associated outside of the body work on the organs that are on the inside.
Now, how long does the treatment generally last when somebody comes in, whether they're in pain or if it's an ongoing treatment?
It's good. I'm glad you asked that because it's going to vary, and I've had it happen that people will get well after one treatment. That's unusual. Usually, there are a variety. It's like the onion, the peeling of the onion, getting to the core problem. A lot of times, that's what we have to do is kind of peel off the layers of the onion to get to the core problem. It's going to take, generally speaking, more than one treatment. Maybe 10, maybe 12, maybe 5. And it depends on how long a person has had the treatment, the relative health of the person. If they're watching that the food chi, and doing a good job with that, they're going to heal much faster. Younger people heal faster than older people still, even with acupuncture. Our body wants to be well. It wants to be balanced. It wants that. And this brings that to our bodies. That's fun.
Well, I've been wanting to ask you, could you share with our audience one or two of the greatest success stories of your career? Because I think you're going to be able to show us that this works.
Yeah, and it's hard to limit it to one or two because if I get going, I can just. One of the most dramatic was several years ago. I was probably in practice for a year and a half, 2 years. Got a call from a gentleman who was sent by a chiropractor to come for an acupuncture treatment. And we do that. We work back and forth. I went out to my waiting room to greet the gentleman. He stood up, and he was bent over holding onto a cane with 2 hands and taking the itsy-bitsy mincing steps to get into the office. And I was wondering how we even got up the stairs to the office. And he was in great pain. Guy was about 48. He worked physically hard he was an electrician, played tennis, played golf. He was in great physical shape. He lied down on the table. Typical acupuncture table, by the way, looks very much like a massage table. We buy them at the same place. So he lay down on the table. His shirt was off. And when I looked at him from his neck down, when I got to the lower back, the spine was offset to the left. So his spine came down and was offset, and I thought, he's got a broken back. I don't know why he's here. I kind of went into a mini panic. By the way, he had a friend with him who was sitting in a recliner chair in the office. So I did what I was taught. I put some needles in, and the needles were in for 10 or 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I went around the table to check with him, how was he feeling, and adjust the needles a little bit. And his girlfriend looked at me and kind of mouthed, "That looks straighter." And I was thinking to myself, I hope it is, because I really want it to get straighter. And I said, I think it is, but I wasn't sure. And in another 10 or 15 minutes, we look again, and his back was straight. That displaced spine was straight. And okay, took the needles out, and I said, and I do a little bit of massage to kind of smooth things over. And I said, okay, slowly let yourself get up and see how you feel. And he ultimately walked out of the office with the cane over his arm and walked down the stairs with his girlfriend on the other arm. I saw him 2 more times to lock the treatment in, and that's it. And I talked to someone recently who knows this gentleman, and he's still doing well.
What do you attribute the rapid, healing nature of that treatment?
In that case, he just had some terribly tense muscles. There was a lot of muscle spasm going on that was pulling him out of alignment. And once we get all of that to start to relax, the body wants to be in balance. It wanted to go back to where it's supposed to be. And it does that. And that's what acupuncture kind of negotiates that. It says, look, you really don't want to be in pain. Yeah. You really don't want to have a headache. Let's try to get rid of that.
Do they need to come in for tune-ups once?
Sometimes. Sometimes people do. I have people who come in. I have some people come in like once a month, and some people come in once every 2 weeks, and some people come in less than once a month, depending on what's going on. When someone comes in generally for an acute situation, it's going to be 2 or 3 treatments kind of close together to get things under control. Then we want to taper them off. But some people come just for tune-up. They've got a little chronic problem. We can tweak it. The problem is taken care of, and they can go on, and life is nice. And would you have time for another story?
Sure.
Okay. There was just to show you that this isn't relegated just to boomers. I had one patient who was in her 80s. She had suffered a stroke. I was going to her home to treat her. And after about 10 treatments, so what would happen, I'd go to her home, and she had left-sided deficit from the stroke. She could barely move her left arm, and her left foot flopped, and she had trouble walking. So when I got there, I asked her to walk across the room for me, and she did. We did a treatment, and I removed the needles, and I asked her to walk across the room for me, and I saw no change. And I came back a few days later and repeated this, and I saw no change. And after 10 treatments of seeing no change, I was starting to feel not really good about what I was doing. And I said that to her. I said, look, this has been 10 treatments. I don't see anything changing. I don't know if you feel any better or anything. So if you want to quit, I can understand that, but it's up to you. She said, no, come back again. So I came back, and I think I did 2 or 3 more treatments. Put the needles in, wait a few minutes, take the needles out. I said, okay, let's walk across the room. She walked across the room like she'd never had a stroke.
Oh my goodness.
And it was that 13th treatment. I believe it was 13 treatments for her.
Huh.
And I was really pleased for both of us, mostly for her. And she was a lovely woman. She had this snow white hair and these cobalt blue eyes, and she looked at me and said, you don't have enough faith in yourself.
Oh.
And I said, okay. What do you do with that?
That's really
so
wonderful.
Yeah, that was wonderful. And I got a lovely Christmas card from her the next Christmas, continuing to thank. So there are lots of stories like that.
Oh, I'm sure. Now I need to know, does insurance ever cover acupuncture, or is it just one of those things that you need to check?
Some insurances do. Most at this point are not, and it bounces every year. Some take it on and some drop it off. I try to keep myself updated with what does and what doesn't, and it changes faster than I can keep updated.
Well, that brings me to what I really wonder about. There's this whole concept of Eastern medicine and Western medicine, and they're very different. And I was wondering how acupuncture plays into, the mindset of Eastern medicine and what we can sort of take from that.
How acupuncture plays into the mindset of Eastern medicine.
As a healing art.
I think all medicine was once similar to acupuncture. there was a lot more of energetic healing. People relied more on the food around them and the herbs around them and the plants around them, and even insects are part of the compendium of herbal medicine. We've kind of split apart because we started doing scientific research and developing synthetic herbs, which we now call medicines, which are pharmaceutical medicines, to make them more affordable, more readily available, and they're miraculous. And some of them carry drastic side effects, which, by the way, is a good place for acupuncture. We treat a lot of chemo patients with the side effects of chemo, this sort of thing. So I think all the medicines were, medicine was medicine, and then we got into the research and we started to develop great pharmaceutical products, and there seemed to be a divide between this energetic medicine and the pharmaceutical piece. In China, I know they use all of it. In this country, we're just starting to get there. Lately, I've had many, many more referrals from MDs who tell people, go do acupuncture first. And this is refreshing, because that was not the case when I first started.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it really is. That's a neat thing that's happened.
Now, do people generally do physical therapy concurrently with acupuncture, or is it really two different schools of thought?
They're not terribly different schools of thought. We're both trying to achieve the same thing, get somebody feeling better. And a lot of people do it concurrently, and they'll do depending on what's going on and what in their life, they'll do physical therapy, they'll do acupuncture, they'll do chiropractic to try to rush things along. I don't know whether it's more efficient that way or not, but I see people get well much more quickly than they would had they not been combining them. So I think there's a synergy. It's kind of like if you're just doing one, you're going to get better faster. If you do two, you're probably going to get better a lot faster. But it's, again, you got to look, what's the balance? Don't get crazy doing too much either. Mm-hmm. Then your body's going to say, which way am I supposed to go here? How do I do this? I want to just kind of point to some of the things that we boomers, need to be aware of, and some of the things that acupuncture is very good at. We're talking about what it treats. It treats all of these treats wonderfully a lot of these problems. One of the things I like to treat, I'm not talking about boomers now, this is a parenthetic phrase, is fertility. But not just fertility, but any kind of reproductive issue. So I have 3 daughters, and one of the blessings of acupuncture is I've been able to make sure that they've had very comfortable menstrual cycles all of their lives. So it's very good for reproductive issues. It regulates things. It makes it nice and comfortable and normal and not a dreaded part of life. Now we go on to menopause, because we're at that stage of our lives. And some women have horrible time with menopause, emotionally, hormonally, so we can regulate the hormones and bring things down. The hot flashes we can pretty much eradicate. Men have problems with urinary tract problems. That's nicely treatable with acupuncture. These are some of the things that we see as we age that Western medicine has trouble with. If you're looking for what acupuncture treats and Western medicine doesn't do very well with it, and there are some things out there, a lot of things out there, Chinese medicine does a great job with it, usually. So.
Do people come in and say, I'm a little nervous about being treated, convince me? Or do they come in and they're already a believer?
Both. And I had someone come in yesterday for the 3rd time. We had a long talk, and they're still not ready, and that's fine.
Wow.
That's fine.
Because I know plenty of people are not believers.
No. And I say to somebody, this is not a belief system, this really works. This has been around for 5,000 years, kids. It's been around, and it gets better and better. We're, doing a lot of research, and the basics haven't changed. Balance the chi. If there's too much here and there's not enough there, move it. That's it.
Well, before we met, I looked online to see what I could learn about acupuncture, and I saw that the World Health Organization even approved something like 28 different maladies to be treated
Mm-hmm.
by...
Did I list them all yet?
Almost. But you did mention that you massage the patient's back, and I was wondering, like I once tried foot reflexology.
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
related to acupuncture? Is that a completely different field? Or
It's part of the field of, it's that field of energetics, you know, the energies of the body, this electromagnetism, whatever, you know, it is, the chi. Let's call it that because I understand that a little bit better. And when I look at the reflexology mapping, it doesn't totally correspond with what acupuncture would have there, and yet I see it work. And I use it a lot. I won't say I use it a lot. Oftentimes, I will work on people's feet at the end of a treatment because there's a great connection between the feet and the rest of the body. We have 3 acupuncture meridians that begin in the feet. We have 3 others that end in the feet. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on in the feet that we can regulate. So it's all part of that. It's not a direct relation, but somewhere these things came together. Probably in India, where it probably all started, and it was carried into China by merchants, by monks most likely, because they were the ones practicing. Got to China, the Chinese started to record it, and that's where we get our history, and that's where we get what we're using now, with some refinements.
fabulous.
It's fun.
I'm so grateful to you for coming in and enlightening our boomer audience. I have to admit, I'm a firm believer in the benefits of acupuncture, and I have tried it myself.
Good.
And it did cure me.
Good.
Next month, we'll be talking a little bit more about other acupuncture techniques that are in use. You mentioned some of them, like gua sha, as well as Chinese herbal medicine.
Good.
So thank you very much for being with us today. Glad to have you with us on Boomer Being. See you next time.